our country.
Oh God,
it would be,
he looks like
I
shit.
probably wouldn't be running. I'd say the country's a fine-tuned machine, but they don't. They're evil.
Oh
They're basically
God,
evil people.
bro, he
But
looks
they
so
lie about
burnt.
us, and Americans aren't going to stand for it. So it's no wonder the same corrupt forces that have been fighting us every step of the way, and they are fighting every step of the way and everything now, breaking every rule and shattering every norm in a lawless attempt to keep us from defeating them at the ballot box. They can't beat us with the vote. They know that. They didn't beat us the last time with the vote. You get the highest number in history, and
it's
you
still
lose.
stolen, baby.
Where is John McLaughlin? Is he here? The great John McLaughlin. You know, he's the great pollster, the greatest pollster in the world. He's here. I know he's here. He's probably backstage. But he told me, wow, did you do great? And I said, well, but, you know, things happen. Even the polling, they had me down 19 points in Wisconsin, but I just left Wisconsin, and I could see that we were doing so great. But they had me down the Washington Post, ABC fake news. And I was down 19 points. And I said, I can't be. I just left. The people are going crazy. They love us. I said, why would they do 19 if they were going to cheat? Why don't you do 4 or 5, and it gives them credibility for the next election? He said to me, they don't care about the next election. If you do 19 points down, people won't vote. If you do 4 or 5 points down, people will vote because you have a chance. And it turned out I won the state.
Yeah, we know the magnets
and
thing.
Yet I had this poll. And what they do is they do it to suppress the vote.
God,
There are so
sick.
many different things. I mean, I have a head full of things. You could talk all day long about it. It's interesting. But, you know, they say you're down. And if you're down enough, think of it. Why don't they do 4 or 5? Because people will vote for that, but they won't vote at 19 for that. Even if they love you, they'll stay home because they say, we don't want it. It's too cold. That's
dude,
why.
I'm sorry. Felix said the exact same thing. I'm going to read it about the Bass Pro Shop. He said, a guy with this small of a resting. This is why a lot of people are always like, oh, Hasan, I heard this take on Chapo. And I'm like, bitch, I said it before they did. What do you mean? Half the time. Okay, here's another indication. Here's another instance of like parallel thinking that happened in identical moments. Remember how I was talking about the Bass Pro Shop guy being super brave? Felix says, a guy with this small of a resting dick state doing this is really brave. I know it sends a bad message, but I sort of think they should give him a medal. You definitely shouldn't go to a place where people are taking their families and show your really small dick, but still. He said the exact same thing 2 minutes ago. John Manila, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Because you know why he said the exact same thing that I said? Okay, for the Bass Pro Shop hero who should be, when I say we need to free the prisoners, when I say we need to free the political prisoners, I'm talking about the Bass Pro Shop guy. Make no mistake. The shopper, the Bass Pro Shop shopper who dove into the aquarium with his dick out, with his tiny dick. You know why Felix had the same exact take that I did? Because it's the right one. It's the only one. Fellas, if you have a tiny dick, if you're a fucking grower and not a shower, okay, especially, and you put yourself in a cold environment, if you put yourself in a cold environment, you're a hero. You're doing a lot for growers out there. Many growers do not have the courage, do not have the bravery to be able to show their penis in a cold environment like that. Stop being a joke thief. This is stolen valor. Yes, I stole Felix's joke by using my time machine. John Manila, thank you for the 20 gifted subs. Goddamn. Anyway, let's get back to Donald Trump, who is kind of low energy and looks a little Ozempic.
Be interesting to watch the election. Be boring. It would be very boring by comparison.
His penis is so small, I feel like I could show it on stream and it would not be like censored, except like, you know, it would be like a boogie situation. I would get
to see what's
TOS.
happened has been really amazing. But I loved when they said it, that the worse the weather, the better, because we're not going to lose. They said they'll walk. He used the expression, they'll walk on glass. They don't care what about. It's going to be a little bit cold that night. In the new Morning Consult poll, we're trouncing the Republican primary field with Trump at 66, just came out, DeSanctimonious at 11, and Haley at 11, so they're tied now. We're also leading big. And, you know, the Des Moines Register was a fantastic poll that came out. And I only say fantastic if we're leading by a lot. If we're not leading by a lot, I either don't talk about it or discredit the poll. That poll doesn't mean a thing. But the Des Moines Register is a very respected poll. The woman that runs it is very respected, and that was a number that they haven't even seen before. We're also leading big here in Iowa, but we're taking nothing for granted because we want you to get out and vote. The general election, we're crushing Crooked Joe by historic margins in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio, Florida, and virtually every other state. They want this one narrative out. I was telling you before, they want to say, we really want to run against Trump, because that's what I'd say too. Because it looks like they have no choice, number one. But we really want to run against Trump because that's demeaning to me. And, it's like, oh, they want to run against me. Now, if you look at the polls, actually, she's losing to Biden almost every. She had one poll that looked good, but it was a Fox poll, of course. But other than that, she's getting killed, and he's getting killed by Biden. Hard to believe you can be losing to Biden, to be honest with you. But it's a party thing. The radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election of 2020, and we're not going to let them rig the presidential election of 2024. We're not going to let them do it. We're not going to let them do it, right? These people are bad. They're evil. Every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, and fascists indict me, I consider it a great badge of honor. I really do. I'm being indicted for you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I wonder what my parents would say as they looked down. I said, my kid was indicted 4 times. I wonder if anybody in the country's ever been indicted that many times. I don't think so. I mean, how many times you get indicted once or twice if you kill people, but then you get put in jail so you don't get indicted after that, right? Of course, in this country, you don't get put in jail. If you're a certain person, you don't even get in trouble if you kill people.
I don't know what he's trying to say.
They put you in jail. Look at what's happened with the J6 hostages. The hostages, that's a horrible thing. And yet Antifa knocks down Portland, destroys Portland. If I didn't put soldiers into Minneapolis, you wouldn't have that city left. Remember the CNN reporter standing there saying, this is a friendly protest. And behind him, the entire city is burning. The entire city is burning down. Never forget, our enemies want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. That's what's happening. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. I just happen to be standing in their way. That's true, actually.
Ooh, he did it.
But this is far more than a campaign. This is the greatest political movement in the history of our country. Maybe in the history of the world, but let's just take our country. That's okay. Together
this
we ended
fucking
the
coward.
NAFTA disaster where
He
you were
left the
getting
people
ripped
behind,
off,
brother. He left his patriots behind. Patriots rose up for him, and he left them behind. Never forget, brother. I know we all love him.
Don't do it. They shouldn't do it.
But the reality is, he did do us harm.
Ever made? Actually, the deal I made with China might even be better.
He didn't even pardon any of our. He didn't pardon none of the political prisoners.
He was a great man. He was assassinated, but he was great. He
pardoned random rich people.
They loved him in Japan. But I went to him. I said, Shinzo, this deal is crazy. He said, I knew you'd be coming to me next. They lived with it for 25 years, ripping off our country. And he looks at me and goes,
Rest
he didn't
in
say
peace,
like,
Shinzo.
He said, all right. And I renegotiated the whole deal. He said, I knew you'd be coming to us. We're talking billions of dollars. I took on communist China like no administration in history, bringing in hundreds of billions of dollars and pouring it into our treasury when no other president had gotten 10 cents from China. Not one president got anything from China. And they wouldn't ask. I don't know what it is. It's like hard to believe. But I took in hundreds of billions of dollars. I would say they weren't fond of me. That's why a lot of people think that what happened with COVID or China virus was, a plan. I just don't think that. I think it was incompetence. I think the scientist came out to have lunch with his girlfriend, and she died, and then all of a sudden other people, and it just grew. I believe that was what happened, but who knows? I also said right from the beginning that I picked the location, right? I picked that location. I said, that's where the lab. It was the lab, and I knew certain things.
Yeah, I invented this, by the way. I'm sorry.
It was a terrible thing. $50 trillion to the world. The world, many places were much harder hit than we were, and just nobody knew. This was like the hidden enemy. You couldn't find it. Wuhan. I I said, it comes from the lab in Wuhan. They said, no, it comes from, first they tried to blame France, then they tried to blame Italy, remember? They tried to blame everybody. Then they said it comes from bats 2,000 miles away. I said, no, it comes from Wuhan. It comes from your stinking lab. But just as I promised, I also stood up for
Yeah, but he also
ethanol.
glazes Xi up.
And I issued
So,
a
like, that
historic
also
rule
doesn't
declaring
make
the
sense at all.
E15
But I
would
guess,
be
like,
made
cognitive bias or like, the lack of clarity here and the inconsistencies is par for the course, because he will glaze Xi all the time. He's like, he loves it. Cognitive dissonance. Yes, this is the word I was thinking of. He'll glaze Xi up while simultaneously saying things such as, you know, he did Wuhan, he did the
stuff
flu.
is better. The new stuff has so many environmental computers on it. You have to go to MIT, like my uncle. Go to Dr. John Trump, the longest-serving professor in the history of MIT, Dr. John Trump. Think of it. You think Biden has that in his family? I don't think so. I don't think so. He may have, but it'll be a shock. Ron DeSantis spent his entire career as a raging opponent of ethanol, and he will destroy ethanol. He was totally against it. Now, all of a sudden, a couple of weeks ago, he came out in favor of ethanol, you know, when the election's over. But I will protect ethanol just the way I did for 4 years in the White House. Everybody would come to me from Iowa. They were saying ethanol was really going to be dead. They were going to kill it. And I saved it. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after we win the presidency, because it's we, not I, but after we win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. I know both of them very well. Ron DeSanctimonious, Nikki Haley will never end the endless wars. They want the endless wars in a certain way. They don't even know it, because they're both bought and paid for by the neocons and the warmongers and the corrupt Washington establishment, the military establishment. And they've never seen a war that they didn't like. Look at their stances on these things. It's ridiculous. Countries that don't want us there, countries that you've never even heard of. And we're losing our blood and we're losing our treasure doing this all over the world. We want to protect our country. And, you know, those domes are starting to work. I didn't like it when Ronald Reagan suggested it because we didn't have the technology. We do have the technology now. And we're going to build a giant dome over our country to protect us from a hostile source, and I think it's a great thing, and it's going to be made in the
what is
United
happening?
States, and that's something that I consider
what?
protective. You know, when I watch our guys operate those things, it's unbelievable. Missile coming in. These geniuses sit down. Most of them are, you know, they're
Does
from
Donald
MIT.
Trump think that America doesn't have like an identical system to the Iron Dome already in the United States of America? He was literally the president.
I mean, isn't that
Does
better?
Donald Trump legitimately think we do not have a like anti-missile defense system around the country? This is
Now we
crazy.
have
Unless
the
he means like a
technology. We
physical
have
dome.
Unbelievable technology. Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis both want to send your hard-earned money to bankroll endless conflict overseas. Just take a look at their votes. Take a look at Ron when he was a congressman. He had everything just as much as they wanted.
He's ripping him. Ooh.
Well, they support real cutting of benefits, substantial cutting of your benefits and services for American citizens, especially for seniors. Under my leadership, we will turn the page forever on those foolish, stupid days of never-ending wars. They never ended. We're in Iraq for 21 years. We're in Afghanistan for 19 years. And we don't even fight to win. If you're going to be in, you got to fight to win. Remember in Iraq, I was a civilian then. But I used to say very strongly, I used to say, don't go in, don't go in, don't go in. But if you do go in, keep the oil. Well, you know who has the oil right now? That was one of the dumbest wars ever. Iraq and Iran were the same. They were the same power. You had Saddam Hussein, and I will say, they hung that sucker, and he looked at him and he spit in their face. You know, he wasn't begging. He wasn't saying, please don't do this to me. He spit right in their face, but, you know, tough guy. But you had Iraq and Iran, and they were almost identical. For 1,000 years, with different names, they've been fighting each other. And one would move 3 feet this way, and then they'd move 3. But we didn't have to do anything because they basically, then they'd stop. They'd be exhausted after 3, 4 years. Then they'd start. This went on for hundreds of years. Then we go in and we obliterate one side, and now the other side's a great power. We should have never done that. We should have never gone into the Middle East. We should have never gone into the Middle East. And we didn't need to. We were in the Middle East for one very strong reason. We needed their oil. but we have more oil
Bought
than they
this
have.
Trump arc.
But we didn't use it. And maybe we didn't even know that. Maybe we didn't even know how much we have. But we have far more oil than they have. But we were in it for the oil. And we have to protect Israel, too. Second reason, we have to protect Israel.
Hell yeah, brother.
Let's even say that's the first reason. Maybe I'll say that's the first reason. Because we don't need their oil. It's funny when, you were totally energy independent under me. We're going to be energy dominant within a matter of months. We're going to be dominant all over the world. We were dominant. We went to number one. We were in fourth place. And after about a year and a half, we were number one. We passed Russia and we passed Saudi Arabia by a lot. But we were going to be number one for a long time. We were going to make so much money with that oil. We were going to send it all over. It's going to be great. Now these lunatic, radical left Green New Deal scammers are, the concept of oil is just so. It's our greatest form of wealth. I mean, what you can do with that, you'll pay off your $35 trillion in debt. You'll do things that you wouldn't have even believed possible. And we have the best oil, too. It's not just the quantity. We have the best. Canada has a lot, but it's very similar to Venezuela. It's tar, it's called the sand dunes. And it's a very expensive process to refine it. But we have the best oil. We have the most oil. We will restore peace through strength. It can be done through strength. You don't have to necessarily send people to die. You have to be prepared to do things, but I think it'd be very unlikely we'd ever have to do it. I'll end Biden's inflation nightmare, save our nation from debt.
I think there is very little percentage chance that anyone in this room is just like listening at this point and going, wow, he's so right. He's so real. I love him. There's just no way.
Something that nobody has. China doesn't have it. China doesn't have it. China
Hit the
has
high
everything they
notes,
need for
man.
batteries, but they don't have a thing called gasoline. And yet we're going to go away from that, and we're going to go right into the hands of China. How stupid are we? How stupid. On day one, I will also cancel crooked Joe Biden's insane ethanol-killing electric vehicle mandate.
Now, that they care about.
They don't go far.
It's Iowa, baby. It's corn country. They care
I'd like
about
to give
that.
you a much
They're
more
like,
complex. I like dealing in complexity, but I'd like to give you a
they
much
know
more
that. They're like,
it's
hell
very
yeah,
simple.
ethanol, baby.
They
More
don't
corn.
go
More
far.
corn subsidies, please.
Let's drive down and get some potatoes from Idaho. Well, sir, that'll be about 6 stops. Where's there a charger? Sir, there's a charger. We have to go approximately 100 miles up here. It's the craziest thing, I tell you, these people. And they want to take away your gas stoves. I have friends, they cook. A lot of people cook, and they like gas better. I don't know if it's better or not, but it seems to be better.
It's better.
They want to take them away. We're going to end all of that stuff on
Don't take it away,
day one.
brother. Hey,
The car
you
man.
can pry my gas stove off
And
of
if you
my
want to buy
cold,
electric, you can
dead
buy electric.
hands,
but
brother.
You'll also
Are
buy
you fucking kidding
combustion
me?
engines,
You
gasoline.
better not
and
come
you'll
for that
have,
goddamn gas
you'll have the
stove.
combination, which is fine too. I like the combination actually better than I like all electric. But just as I did before, I'll appoint strong, highly qualified pro-Constitution Supreme Court justices who will interpret the law as written. And I'll direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical, out-of-control prosecutor in America for their illegal, racist, and reverse enforcement of the law. And also, we're going to indemnify all police officers and law enforcement officials. I've met a lot of great ones back there, all throughout the United States, to protect them from being destroyed by the radical left lunatics that are running our cities and states, for taking strong actions on crime, because they can stop this crime.
Not me, though. They're the
Somebody
loonies.
told me the other day.
We're normal.
We have these stores in New York. Love to go. I used to love to go to them. You did like drugstores and grocery stores. Everything's now got glass on top. You want to buy aspirin, and you have to call a clerk, which takes you an hour. They come over, they open it, they open a door, and they give you and then they close it, because if they leave the shelves
So
open,
good.
the place will be raided. I mean, would anybody even think that's possible? We have to bring back law and order in our country.
How do people listen to this and think Biden is incoherent? Because Biden can't go off the cuff like this.
Into beacons of hope, safety, and beauty.
What do you mean?
Better than they've ever been. We'll
This
work
is
with the
top dome.
Democrats. We'll work
He's
with the
spitting top
Democrats
dome.
'cause
He
they
has
run
like
our
a
cities, and the cities
teleprompter,
are
but he's like
terrible. What's
freestyling
going
on top of
Look at
that.
the crime rate.
The problem
It's-
is, I've said this already, Donald Trump is delusional, okay? But he's not delirious. Donald Trump is delusional, Biden is delirious. That's the difference. Donald Trump has been delusional from the jump. He's never been normal. His commentary has always been insane. Biden, on the other hand, comes across as, or is supposed to be the sane voice, because like when you listen to the Biden, when he can get his message out, yeah, it's a normal message. It's a good message even, right? Does he follow through on it? Well, that's besides the point. But if we're just simply looking at the optics of the situation, Donald Trump is insane but coherent. Biden is incoherent but sane. And unfortunately, when you are less coherent than the other party, ultimately, you know, they're looking at it and they're thinking you're not fit enough. And there's this narrative now where people are just like, where is this coming from? That people say Biden is like demented. Biden is demented. Is like, I wonder where this narrative is coming from. And it's like, bro, from our eyes and ears and brains that we see, like I'm sorry, this guy is insane, but he's very charismatic to an audience of equally insane people. People hear what he has to say and go, I like that. I'm so glad he's talking about the things that matter to me. Casing, like plastic windows that protect, I don't know, plastic windows that stop roving gangs of thugs from stealing laundry detergent at CVS. And I'm in Iowa, in a town with 15,000 people. And of course, I never see that, but I see it on television. There's no black people in my vicinity, but I'm scared of black people, and I see it on television, and I'm afraid of what's going on, because in my mind, in big cities, like, that's what's happening. Black people are getting together, and they're creating gangs to specifically steal laundry detergent from the CVS. That's the way these guys operate. They think that that is a real thing that's going on, and Donald Trump does a very good job of like effectively communicating that to his audience.
And the women that fight are very tough too. They fight against each other, but boy, that will be a terrible thing. But they want, that's what they're fighting. They want them to fight. Look at the weightlifting. You know, the weightlifting came out. The record's like 150 pounds more. You know, I do it.
Trump is insane and incoherent. Biden is sane depending on the policies, and sometimes sounds old, but I don't think he's incoherent for the most part. No, I think Biden is definitely.
But you know, not presidential.
No, this is a big fissure in this community between like liberals and myself, like more lib adjacent community members of myself, like. It's crazy that, like, I'm not going to sit here and act like what Donald Trump is saying is, like, good, okay, reasonable, or even sane. But on the Dementia Olympics, if we're looking at Brandon versus Trump, yeah, Donald Trump comes across as more coherent. Donald Trump also has been doing nonstop campaign stops again.
And they say, have you lifted before? No, I haven't.
If you want to compare Biden's current energy to where he used to be, look at how well of a retail politician Biden used to be. Back in the day, yeah, I know, I missed the Trump doing the moan, the transphobic weightlifting thing. He's doing the transphobia part of his rhetoric.
Fighting is, can you imagine that? It'd be horrible. It's a horrible thing. A horrible thing. It's everybody knows. Look at some of these track and field records, you know. They're knocking them out by, like the swimmer. It lasted 16 years. She wants to swim. She's a great all-American swimmer. She looks left, she looks right, she looks left. All her friends, she's been growing up with these people.
Like, do you guys understand what I mean by this? Like, how do I describe it better? I have to sneeze. Oh, God. Hold on.
It's got a bigger wingspan.
Never mind.
And I always say, in a joking manner, she suffered a terrible tragedy. She was very badly injured, right? Because he went by her so fast that she got tremendous wind burn, you know? He's going by her at a level. No, the whole thing, and he broke the record by many seconds. You know, this is a thing that stood like 1/100th of a second. And, you know, they break it by like 19 seconds. The whole thing, can you imagine that you have to say you're going to keep men out of women's sports. Who would think that that's even possible to say? It's just crazy. And these radical left lunatics are really into it. They really think it's like a good thing. I don't get it. You'll have to. He was a big
like
football.
the normal person in this situation, like a relatively more charismatic individual, should look at this and go, do you think this is actually harmful to the country? Republicans want you to be mad at this because they have nothing else going on. Republican politicians steal money directly out of your pockets and give it back to those mega corporations that take away, that don't pay their fair share and take advantage of you and don't pay you fairly. Okay? And the only way that the Republican Party can keep defending those guys is if they make you feel angry about some random trans girl that was at a swim meet 3 years ago. Who cares about this stuff? Let's not be ridiculous, okay? But it's ridiculous. That's the greatest way to counter this narrative because that is the normie narrative. Normal people do not spend this much time thinking about like one trans girl in Arkansas, okay? And even Trump knows that. But the difference is Trump also knows that his audience is getting smaller and smaller, I guess, of his like diehard supporters. So ultimately, he has to cater to that base as best as possible because that base is going to carry him across the finish line in the primaries. Okay? And that's it. Biden is a grandpa you avoid during Christmas. Trump is the grandpa you sit with because he can tweet about what he says. Because you can tweet about what he says. Yeah. Well, you see, it's a big deal to me because I don't want to play video games with trans people. Oh, okay, got it.
Is right, but it's nothing like this. And he didn't have people coming in from prisons and mental institutions. He just had people coming in. So if you want to save America from crooked Joe Biden, then get every patriot you know, make sure they're registered Republicans and get them out to vote in their local precinct caucus and you got to do this.
Oh, the thing I was going to say is, like, mental clarity and mental acuity is demonstrated not through age at this point, but through the way you talk. What I mean by that is you look at Donald Trump and you look at Bernie Sanders and you look at Joe Biden. Bernie Sanders is the oldest guy in the bunch. Bernie Sanders also has the most energy and the most mental clarity out of the three. Right? I know I'm upset at him on the Israel stuff, but like ultimately, when you have all three of them side by side, if they are having a conversation, it's Bernie number 1, Trump number 2, Joe Biden number 3 on their performance overall. That's it. So it's not necessarily just about age either. It's not just about age either. As a matter of fact, it's barely about age in this circumstance. It's more so something that you watch. What? Hasan, you should unironically consider leaving this world in a game. You're disingenuous little rat. You lie about everything, do no research, and are just as bad as Ben Shapiro in every way possible, except for the slight difference in intelligence between you two. I want to investigate stuff like this. I do legitimately want to understand like how someone who is a liberal, supposedly, has such like this level of disdain for someone like myself. I'm not, New Year's resolution, I'm not getting mad at this person at all, but I do want to like I legitimately want to know like how someone who is ostensibly a liberal, like I assume this guy hates Ben Shapiro, right? Like how a person like this is this genuinely aggressive and like this mad, you know what I mean, as someone like myself. Because when push comes to shove, I assume we're on the same side of the political spectrum. So I legitimately don't get it. Because like if this guy hates Ben Shapiro, right, you're just as bad as Ben Shapiro. He's using Ben Shapiro as a negative. How did you arrive at something? How did you arrive at so much anger for someone like myself when I most likely dump on Ben Shapiro and yell about Ben Shapiro a lot more than whoever whichever content creator that you're following, who rarely ever talks about Ben Shapiro and probably spends a lot more time claiming that they're progressive and then talks about other people who are progressive. You know what I mean? That's the difference. Like you've been duped into thinking that you are advocating for progressive causes while simultaneously the number one cause you're advocating for is basically yelling at those who you consider to be bad for the left. He's either 12 or 30. Their profile links to their YouTube where they make TF2 videos. Nice. I mean, I hope your TF2 videos bang. I hope they pop off. Brother, he literally wants you to unalive yourself. Yeah, I mean, that part doesn't matter. You guys are crazy if you think that, like, that, come on. He told me to kill myself in a video game. That is the most, like, I hear that 8 times when I wake up in the morning. You know what I mean? I think sending that message a minute after the follow age requirement just shows that they're not a serious person. They had that ready to go, maybe from a group of friends. Well, my point is this. Even if that person who unfollowed immediately after that, I guess, like, even if he's still in here, or even if there are other people like that in here that feel that way, right? I want you to ask yourself why. How did you arrive at this conclusion? Like, what made you think in your world, legitimately, I'm fascinated by this. Ideologically speaking, what happened in your universe, in your mind, where you decided that you are a liberal, you decided that you are a progressive, you consider yourself a liberal, you're excited to vote for Joe Biden, right? And simultaneously, you understandably don't like Ben Shapiro for that reason because he goes against everything that you believe, right? But it got you to a point where you hate someone like myself almost as much as Ben Shapiro, if not more than Ben Shapiro. It's very interesting, and I wanna comprehend where, like, I wanna understand where that comes from, right? What's happening here? No, he's just ending it. I don't want to say they have no clear principles. They're unserious, terminally online people. I don't want to. Being more open-minded in the new year, which is my resolution, and not yelling at random chatters, no matter how uncharitable they are, is a part about you know, I need to follow through on that. I said I was going to do that, and I am going to do that, and I'm doing that right now. So when I talk about this with, you know, clear conscience and talk about things like this in a very calm manner, it's fine. It's very different than me, like, you know, getting mad at this person. Yeah, but they think and they follow and support you, but they are torn because they're invested in you, but you're losing followers and it bothers them. Who are you talking about? What? I think some people are mad at you. It's complicated. They like you, but they're upset you are losing viewership. I think I explained that right. What? I don't think anybody cares about that at all. What? I don't think that's correct. They're looking to get that negative reaction, so you handled it awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I wish I could understand the psychology of a person like that because I legitimately do want to know. It's one of the only ways to make it happen less, just how the internet works. No matter how right you are, if you're mad at all, you lost. Yeah, 100%. But like I said, ultimately it is fascinating to me when people
They had that didn't work.
when people are like, I'm a liberal. When people are like, I'm a liberal, I love being a liberal, I'm a progressive person, and then they come to a community like this one, right? That is, I guess, like 100% of the way on board with their ideals, right? Like infinitely closer to their opinions than anywhere else online, most likely, and go, you're the villain, you're the problem, you are what is like responsible for the downfall of American civilization. And it's just like always shocking to me that people care more about like being a progressive and care more about yelling at other people that are progressive. What? That's what it feels like. I've heard it from followers that don't follow anymore. They'd be like, I like him, but he's not following through on what he used to be. So they're going farther left and they don't like what their boy Haas isn't what they fell in love with. Yeah, I think you made an alt account to say silly things like this. I don't think that this is correct. That's not a real thing. I don't know who would be more further left than me, but beyond that, I think I have been incredibly consistent on my foreign policy takes, incredibly consistent on my domestic policy takes for the past 10 years, which is why I would suspect that people that, leave or for that reason, for example, I would assume that they're leaving because they think they misunderstood where I was coming from originally. Do you think Sam Cedar's more left than you? No, of course not. There are way too many people who think that you and your audience are worse for the world than like Fox News and the rhetoric. Yeah, those people are unfortunately extremely online. That's the whole point. You know what I mean? That's it. If all your haters were fixating on someone like Matt Walsh, it might even be enough to de-idolize them. Yeah, I would like to know what that person means by further left. I suspect that they think like, being pro-Israel is more progressive than being pro-Palestine in this situation. Like, I think that's what it is. It's the same principle behind John Fetterman, right? Which is what I saw a tweet about this earlier, where it was like John Fetterman simultaneously supporting Israel because Israel is more progressive than Palestine. John Fetterman also simultaneously saying that he is not a progressive. And it's like, how is he hitting both of those buttons? How does that work, right? Like, he's simultaneously saying he's not progressive, and you shouldn't think he's progressive, but also saying Israel is more progressive than Palestine, and that's why he supports Israel. Not further left. What? They're liberals, right wing, and all the rest of the world only consider leftists in the U.S. Yeah. A lot of these guys are formerly alt-right, newly liberal, terminally online man babies. The PP types that think themselves as edgy liberalism is the way. I think so too. No, this person went back on the further left thing. He said, "I don't agree with them either. I don't know what they where they actually went. It's confusing." Like, where else do they go? Not further left. That's wrong. No, you're not further left, but someplace else. Okay, so you're just making stuff up. It seems. Anyway, on this beautiful, glorious America Day, we continue our celebration, folks. Here is Donald Trump talking about magnets.
That didn't work. They had an almost $1 billion cost overrun on the magnetic elevators. Think of it, magnets. Now, all I know about magnets is this. Give me a glass of water. Let me drop it on the magnets. That's the end of the magnets. Why didn't they use John Deere. Why didn't they bring in the John Deere people? Do you like John Deere? I like John Deere. It didn't work. They had an almost
right.
$1 billion cost overrun on the magnetic elevators. Think of it, magnets. Now, all I know about magnets is this. Give me a glass of water. Let me drop it on the magnets. That's the end of the magnets.
That's it. It's over. He's right. He's right. Magnets, how do they work? You drop water on them, it breaks. I also think Islamophobia plays into it a lot, including their perceptions of you. A lot of negative perceptions of Muslim men are that they aren't intelligent, so people are quick to think you're stupid. No, I think people... I don't think people immediately assume that I'm Muslim. I think Islamophobia plays in a different direction. But no, I think people think I'm stupid because, one, I say I'm stupid all the time. And two, I think it's because there are a ton of content out there saying I'm stupid and hot. I'm just hot and stupid. Yeah. You're just stupid. KW. Well, I mean, smart enough to get you to subscribe for 3 months and avoid ad breaks at the top of the hour. You know what I mean? What does that say to you? Because at the top of the hour, there are ad breaks. That's right. 3 minutes of them. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe. For $5 or free with a Twitch Prime. By connecting your Amazon account to your Twitch account, you get 1 free Prime subscription a month. Use it on your favorite broadcaster. Hopefully that's me. Favorite stupid broadcaster. My roommate gets so mad every time they see me watching you. They hate Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson, but hate you more. They aren't terminally online, just a neolib that thinks Econ 101 is the gospel. I think Chad is terminally online and thinks everyone else is. These people aren't. They only see you on YouTube Shorts. I think a lot of liberals think you didn't condemn Hamas enough. Yeah. Anyway. Like, that Trump magnet situation is a perfect distillation of all of the things I say about his commentary, right? He's not, it doesn't make any sense. It's incorrect information, but it's still delivered in like a funny way. And his audience is also stupid as hell, and they think it's funny and great. At a certain point, I think, it comes down to fifis. Like, it always comes down to fifis, right? And people like Trump, they think he's charismatic. They think he's rizzed up. People don't feel the same way about Joe Biden. And a big part of that is because he, unfortunately, it's something that he can't really change about himself. And it's just that he is not exactly all there in the same way that he used to be. Joe Biden of 10 years ago clears Trump so unimaginably hard, right? He does. There was someone in the chat showed a earlier Brandon video. If you have it, let's look at it. Where was it? There was like a Biden debate from like 10 years ago. Who was it? Who linked it? I think it was like maybe Antifa secretary or something. I mean, even this.
But folks, let me tell you what I literally told every world leader I met with, and I've met them all. It's never, never, never been a good bet to bet against America. We have the finest fighting force in the world. Not only.
Like, this is like This is the beginning of the downfall, too. This is 2016. He's like starting to get real old at this point.
Not only do we have the largest economy in the world, we have the strongest economy in the world. We have the most productive workers in the world. And given a fair shot, given a fair chance, Americans have never, ever, ever, ever let their country down. Never. Never. Ordinary people like us who do extraordinary things. We've had candidates before who attempted to get elected by appealing to our fears, but they've never succeeded because we do not scare easily.
Does anyone have, like, give me a new Brandon? If Biden's son didn't die in 2015, he probably would have been president and might have been heading out after 8 years by now.
Never bow. We never bend. We never break when confronted with crisis. No, we endure. We overcome. And
Look at all the self-hating Americans in the chat. I know. They should be big brain like you, 2012 account, and be an American that loves America and says America is great. I know. I mean, inherently a reactionary way to look at the subject matter. Everyone should be criticizing their countries endlessly. That is, in my opinion, a much more patriotic thing to do. It is your duty to want to improve your country. It is your duty to want to improve your home. It is your duty to want to improve your house. It is your duty to want to improve yourself. And yes, a part of that, you can extrapolate that same energy and that same principle all the way to the nation state. Okay? You can cope and you can claim that this just comes from a place of just being a self-hating American. But the reality is you want America to be better.